This is LSAT Prep Test 158, Section 1, Passage 3. This is a comparative passage set about plagiarism, specifically whether studying the history of plagiarism destroys your ability to call it morally wrong. This is a medium difficulty passage set, and the reason it's a little bit tricky is that the two authors agree on way more than most students realize. Now, Passage A is by Christopher Ricks. Passage B is by Paulina Hughes, who edited the book containing Ricks's essay. So she is literally responding to him, and that relationship matters. The most important paragraph in this entire passage set is the third paragraph of Passage B. That's where Hughes lays out exactly how much she agrees with Ricks, and exactly where she stops agreeing. And if you skim that paragraph, you're going to get the relationship questions wrong. And so let's walk through it. In Passage A, Ricks is attacking a book by Laura Rosenthal about plagiarism in Renaissance drama. Now, you don't want to get attached to the Rosenthal details here. Ricks is essentially using her as a kind of punching bag for a bigger argument. She claims to question differences between plagiarism, imitation, and originality. And Ricks says the answer is always the same with this kind of work. It is the standard postmodern move. There is no real difference, and anyone who is using the word plagiarism is just exercising power over someone they don't like. Now, Ricks's second paragraph is where he gets sharp because he spots a contradiction. Rosenthal's book runs on moral energy. She clearly cares about fairness and who holds power, but she writes as if doing political analysis means you've got to throw morality out entirely. And that tension is Ricks's whole case against her. You can't be morally fired up and then pretend morality does not apply. Now, his third paragraph broadens the attack. Just because a moral standard isn't universal doesn't mean it's fake. Moral conventions can still be valuable and still worth defending. And when political historians strip morality away from the conversation, political history gets worse. That is his final shot. Now, you want to move through this paragraph quickly because it's reinforcing what he already said in paragraph 2. And so across all of Passage A, Ricks is doing one thing. He's arguing that historical approaches to plagiarism tend to erase moral judgment, and he thinks that is a disaster. Now on to Passage B. Hughes opens by making a straightforward case for history, that the idea of plagiarism has changed over time. Commerce, copyright law, new theories of art, all of these shifted what people meant by it. And the same act of copying got praised in one era and condemned in another. You want to read this paragraph at a pretty normal speed because she's laying the groundwork, not making her main argument yet. Then you want to slow way down at her second paragraph because this is where everything turns. She says Ricks is suspicious of historical approaches because he thinks they create moral relativism. And then she drops the one sentence that does all the heavy lifting. She says there are historical approaches and there are historical approaches. And that is her splitting his target in half. She's telling you he's lumping together two very different things. One deserves his criticism and the other does not. Now, her third paragraph makes the split explicit, and this is where most students go wrong. You want to watch the structure carefully here. She agrees with Ricks first. Reducing morality to power, that's bad, and she says so directly. Now, shoddy scholarship that projects modern ideas about race, gender, or class onto old controversies, it's also bad. She agrees with him on that too. But then comes the word yet, and that one word is the turn. Bad history doesn't mean all history is bad. You can look at what past generations thought about plagiarism without endorsing their views. You're just admitting that people saw things differently, and that is not moral relativism, that is accuracy. Now, the key move in this passage set is the partial agreement. Ricks and Hughes both reject the postmodern argument that morality is just a power game, and that is real shared ground. The split comes afterwards. Ricks thinks any historical approach will slide into that same relativism. Hughes thinks you can study history without losing your moral footing, and every hard question in this set will test whether you see that distinction. Now, notice the pattern Hughes uses in Passage B. She concedes, then concedes again, then pushes back. So agree, and then pivot. If you only catch the concessions, you're going to think she's on Ricks's side completely. If you only catch the pushback, you're going to think she's his opponent, and she is neither. She is carving out a middle position. And that middle position is what the test is going to ask you about. Now, Ricks's stance is pretty clear. Historical study of plagiarism undermines morality. Now, Hughes' stance is a bit more careful. Some historical work is bad, but the method itself is sound. The main trap is reading these two as total opposites, but they're not. A question asking what both authors would agree on has a real answer. They would both say reducing morality to power is wrong. Now, students who treat passage B as a full takedown of passage A are going to miss that overlap every single time. Now, before you hit the questions, you want to make sure you can answer three things. First, why does Ricks think Rosenthal's book contradicts itself? 2, what exactly does Hughes concede to Ricks before she pushes back? And 3, does Hughes think reconstructing past attitudes is the same as defending them?